Hello, lovely people.
Hello!
Just to start, I will describe myself for anyone who has any visual. Oh, sorry, got stuck to the floor then. So I am a white trans woman. I am dressed in a white leather jacket and a trans flag dress, which also has pockets. I wrote a speech before what happened recently, so I've tagged a bit on to the start. The struggle for choice over what happens to our bodies is something trans people understand well. What has happened in America is a barbaric loss of that freedom. The Supreme Court decision will kill women. We know overwhelmingly this will affect poor women, black women, women of colour. This is the removal of basic body autonomy for women, trans men and non-binary people. But even in the UK, abortion is one of the only medical treatments that is still criminalised. A woman is currently being prosecuted in Oxford for procuring an abortion, and if found guilty, could face life in prison. I weep for her that she is having to face trial for exercising autonomy over her own body. It has been a feminist struggle for decades in the UK to fully decriminalise abortion, and in Northern Ireland there is still not, even after 2 years, adequate provision, and women are still having to travel overseas. As trans people, as queer people, these are struggles we need to support, as body autonomy affects us all. Women's rights are trans rights, and trans rights are women's rights. Feel free to boo this first bit. Millions outside Parliament object to little children being perverted, diverted or converted from a normal family life to a lifestyle which is desperately dangerous for society and extremely dangerous for them. That was Dame Jill Knight, a Conservative Minister of Parliament in 1987, about gay people, just before Section 28 was brought in. But those same words echo in speeches being made by some of our lawmakers about trans people today. They are as false then as they are today. So far this year, there have been 20 protests in the UK, over 20 protests in the UK, about the state of LGBT+ rights. We are here because the government has regressed on LGBT rights in Britain and has stalled on progressing bans on conversion therapy for the last 4 years. In a response to the government's U-turn a few months ago, I set up a petition. I thank anyone who signed it. I'm going to start with the government's own reply to the petition I started. Conversion therapy practices do not work and can cause long-lasting harm. We are committed to banning these abhorrent practices. If only they'd stopped the response there. Instead, they went on. We will bring forward a ban that protects everyone from attempts to change their sexual orientation. There are different considerations when it comes to transgender conversion therapy. This is false. There are no different considerations. Conversion practices, whether for trans people, gay people, lesbians, bisexual or asexual people, all function in the same way and uses the same mechanisms. What the government don't seem to understand is all conversion therapy is harmful. Just as you can't consent to abuse, you can't meanly consent to conversion practices, because they are one and the same. But conversion practices do not happen in a vacuum. If homophobia, biphobia, transphobia, interphobia, acephobia didn't exist in our society, if LGBT people grew up in a society that truly saw them as being equal, it would be almost impossible to put someone through conversion practices. Conversion therapy is an insidious practice that preys upon those cultural elements of homophobia, transphobia, etc., that are present within society and weaponizes it in a way that erodes the victim's self-confidence, their self-esteem, and their very sense of self. I'm going to give a few statistics about the UK. 1 in 5 young people report hearing negative language used about LGBT people on a daily basis. 36% of trans students report having experienced verbal harassment for teachers and school staff. The Gallup hate crime organisation or charity surveyed LGBT people recently and asked if they had suffered from abuse from their own family. 29% of respondents said yes. 63% of those respondents were under 18 when they first experienced that abuse from their family. In 2019, the Albert Kennedy Trust report found that almost half of young homeless LGBT people become homeless because their family rejects them. Half of these come from religious backgrounds. People's own fears of things such as street harassment, ostracization from peer groups, and family abandonment are used against them in order to shame, guilt, or frighten the victim into participating in conversion practices. Covert types of emotional abuse are often used by people who know the victim, and the victim knows prior to being subject to sessions, creating a narrative of shame and guilt, making them question the validity of their sexuality or gender identity. These practices are usually conducted by someone in the position of power over the victim, be that family member, religious entity, or medical provider. You cannot consent to abuse, and you cannot consent where that consent is forced. Coerced, where the threat of homelessness or being cut off for access to healthcare is there if you do not comply. I think I forgot to mention that trans people in most surveys were found twice as likely to be offered conversion practices as cisgender people. 7% of LGBT people have been offered it compared to 13% of trans people. Those numbers also double if we're talking about people of colour. Further, 10% of ACE people were found to have been offered or put through it. The holes in the ban that has been announced are so big you can fit the whole conversion therapy industry through them. It is a ban in name only, and it does almost nothing to prevent these coercive and abusive practices. Conversion therapy is a practice that the government itself called abhorrent. Well, I say if it's abhorrent for one, then it's abhorrent for all. 4 years we've had to wait so far. 4 years of the queer community continuing to be tortured and abused for who they are because our government does not have the moral decency to outright ban these practices. How much longer do we have to wait? How much more harm do we have to witness happen to our community? I call for them to ban conversion practices in all their forms, for all they affect, now.